Welcome, Akwawa. Welcome to Healing Our Mother Wounds, Kromanti Traditional Remedies from Mother Issues with me, Sistah Yaya. Greetings and welcome once again. My name is Sistah Yaya. I am a Kromanti healer, oracle, traditional herbalist, and so much more. I am the co-founder of SoulTribeGroup.com, where you can find your wildcrafted Caribbean sea moss, and you can also find some great herbal products to help to heal your mind, body, and soul. I'm also the co-founder of SoulTribeAcademy.org, which is where you are right now, learning about our mother wounds. Outside of that, I like having fun with my 2-year-old and enjoying my family and doing things that make me feel great because I too am in a process of healing my mother wounds, but I want to share some wisdom with you that our ancestors have used to help heal their mother energy. You see, since I was 4 years old, I had this special knowing about myself. I knew there are different things about myself that are a little different from others. And I could remember being as young as 4 years old, experiencing mother wounds, experiencing my mother's rejection through her own pain and her own rejection, experiencing my mother's hardships and viewing her stressful moments and taking that in as a child and even as an adult, sort of expressing a lot of the wounding that I experienced. But we're going to learn a lot more why mother wounds are important, but that's just a little bit about me. I also was a teenage parent. And that was kind of interesting and everything that came along with that. And later on, my son was actually kidnapped by my mother. And things got a little bit deep from there, right? So, mother wounds you will find are pervasive through our society, but we're going to learn a little bit more of how your mother wounds show up in your life and what you can do about it because we all have them, including myself. But working through it is absolutely key. So let's support ourselves and ground ourselves at this moment. Before we do any type of healing work, it's always important to set the environment. It's also important to quiet our inner voice and quiet the outer voices so that we can hear exactly what our soul is needing at this moment. So let's engage in a little breath work, shall we? In Kromanti tradition, we work with all of the elements in healing. One being air, breath of life, is one of the most powerful tools that we have at our disposal. And we're going to use that. So I'll ask that you'll get seated comfortably wherever you are. If you're on the floor, on a couch, just kind of get comfortable. And we're going to breathe in deeply together. We're going to breathe in through our nose. We're going to hold our breath and we're going to release from our mouth. We're going to breathe in for our nose for 5 seconds, hold that breath for 5 seconds, and release for 5 seconds. I'm going to do that 3 times. You ready? Let's go. Breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Let's breathe in again, hold, and breathe out. Let's breathe in again. Let's hold it. And gently release. And as you release, you may want to loosen your shoulders a little bit. You want to put your neck, may turn your head from side to side, up and down. You may want to relax your back, your hips a little bit, wiggle just a little bit, on down through your body, and just allow your body just to relax. This is setting the environment once again for spirit to speak to us, but also for our bodies to be open to receive, right? And when we're relaxed, we can receive much better. And we'll talk about that. So those breaths, just so for your reference, if you ever want to go back, they are repairing rather, and restorative breath. You breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and you release for 5 seconds. You can do this anytime you want, anytime throughout the day. It's great to do over candle work, candle magic, or just to calm your nervous system down after a stressful situation or just at the end of the day. So add this to your toolkits for healing, okay? So let's get right into it. What are mother wounds? What are they? Mother wounds are caused by an interruption of the divine feminine energy in our lives. This causes us to feel pain, sadness, low self esteem, and so much more. Mother wounding is purely an energetic wounding from our mothers and from our mothering or disruption of mothering energy, feminine energy. Sometimes people have great perfect, they would say, relationships with their mothers, but still suffer with mother wounds because we're going to learn what type of mother wounds there are. Because there's more, not just the one we have with our mother, there are other ones that are very important and are impacting how you feel. No matter where it comes from, the symptoms of mother wounds are always the same: sadness, low self esteem, self sabotage. We're going to get into that. But just know mother wounds is just an interruption of that flow of energy that's meant to come to us, to help us, to heal us somewhere along the line through intentional or unintentional situations. There's wounding. And so these are considered mother wounds. So let's look at it some more. What are mother wounds? So I said there's more than one, right? So the ones a lot of us are most familiar with are going to be the personal mother wounds. The ones that, okay, you can directly say, my mother did this, my mother said this, and this is where I feel like I've been wounded. Very valid. Those are personal mother wounds. Those things that happen to you personally with your mother, your caretaker, any female role model who wasn't involved in your raising and upbringing, right? Then there are cultural mother wounds, and this can be cultural slash societal. Those mother wounds that say, for example, um, women should just always good to be a strong woman and do everything and be in control of everything because that is a way of showing how strong you are and how amazing you are. That can be a mother wound, right? Because no one could be something 100% all the time, and that's very exhausting. Some mother wounds allow like this. Initiation process in adulthood that's so traumatic. Some think that if you haven't gone anything traumatic in your life, then you're not a woman. You haven't grown up yet if you have a lot of tragedies that nearly took you out this world. And we can learn in so many ways, and it doesn't always have to be harsh. So that is could be a cultural mother wound that's pervasive within a society. We have spiritual mother wounds. Spiritual mother wounds are quite interesting because that is the subtraction of feminine energy in our spirituality. Because we know we are by byproducts of each other, right? So you have the masculine, you have the feminine, you have the light, you dark, up, down, the dichotomies that exist. So a spiritual mother wounds could be the absence of a mother feminine energy in spirituality. That which is easy, graceful, cooling, and all those wonderful things we want our mothers to be, right? And that's actually a big wound that's faced all over the world. Then we have a planetary mother wound. What is that? Planetary mother wounds are how we care for Mother Earth, right? It's how we take care of the air, the earth, right? It's if we're polluting or we're planting gardens, how we're caring for the seas, the animals, the birds. And when we're not being great stewards of this earth in which we depend on for our lives, and when we wound our mother or when our mother is wounded, for example, let's say pollution on the ground or in the earth, we reap that in our lives. So our food isn't great, and that's a wounding because we're not getting the best of the nutrition that she has to offer because that relationship, that energy of love has been wounded. If the air quality is poor, you're not breathing, taking in as much life, so you don't have as much life source flowing through your body. That's another planetary wound. So we see that mother wounds are more than just personal. They pervade in many spheres, again, cultural, spiritual, and planetary. And it is important to be aware of this. It's very, very important. One thing I like to say before we move on is that our mother wounds are not necessarily personal. In other words, the personal ones that we do have, they're not actually personal. In fact, what I'm trying to say and what I'm explaining to you is that what our mothers were able to do or not do for us and what they did and did, we would say probably a bad job with or could have done a better job with, is really about their own hurts. It's really about their inability to address their own wounding. It's a demonstration of their suffering and of their pain. And because it has been undealt with, it is reflected in everything that they do, from how they parent, i.e., while we're having this conversation, right? How they do their finances, how they do their interpersonal relationship. So when I tell you that it's not personal, I mean to say it's not personal about you. It's not intentional to necessarily hurt you, although they may have made it that way. They may have said it, but it's not. It is the pain that they are living with on the inside. But today we're going to focus on what you can do to help yourself, how you can help to heal yourself, how you can help to move on. Mother wounds are so profound in our life because they run the program. They run everything and how we feel. They run how we see ourselves in the world. They affect our self esteem. We'll talk about that later. They affect our ability to reach our goals, health wise, spiritual wise, financial wise, because they affect our self esteem. How we see ourselves, how we physically see ourselves in the mirror, and how we see ourselves in the world or in relationship to the world. So, these are some fundamental teachings and love that a healthy mother passes on to her child. She also gives them education on death and what death really means. She opens up spirituality so the child can see and understand and overstand themselves in context to themselves in the world and the universe. So when this energy is wounded, either you get too much of something or not enough of nothing, or of excuse me, not enough of something else. We can see that this can cause wounding within our psyches and our bond and our bodies, and it impacts everything that we do because it's so fundamental. Mother wounds and mother wound energy is so profound to how we live. It's so profound to how we move in this earth. This is why we have to talk about it because mother wounds are impacting everything that we do. One thing you can always, let's say 100% guarantee pretty much, is that your mother wound or a mother will always keep you separate from yourself. It would always present a blockage to your true self. So the addictions that you may be going through or have experienced and everything else that served as a separation from yourself has a lot to do of some mother wound energy that has been wounded and that requires your attention. I like to say that mother wounds are like opportunities, right? They're opportunities to help us to heal ourselves. The fact that we see it is the fact that we are well alive and aware of it. I always say that in order to heal something, you have to reveal it. It has to be shown to you. It has to be made present to you. And sometimes when we feel things in our emotional bodies in the form of stress, yes, maybe some depression and some anxiety, these things show up to say, "Hey, I would like to get your attention because I know what you're feeling is not really who you are. It's a separation from yourself. And I'm showing you as a reminder that you're separated from yourself and also as an opportunity to come back to yourself. And we can do this together." So, mother wounds and the appearance of them are actually a good sign. So, don't worry, you're in good hands. I always like to show this scale of consciousness because when we think of emotions that we feel in our body throughout the day, um, we may not take the time to categorize them, to look at them and what they're telling us what's going on inside, right? Or we may not even acknowledge them, which is real. Right. So, this scale of consciousness is one that I absolutely love because it helps us to see how we're feeling and where it rates on a continuum in terms of being contracted, that's in fear, that's when you're in sickness, to being expanded. That's when your mind is opening up, you're slowing down, you're more in harmony and in alignment with who you are. I don't know about you, but I felt shame for a very long time because of the years of sexual abuse and trauma from being sexual abused. Like I said, I had a child when I was 14, and that really wasn't of my choice. But however it came out to be, it is what it was, right? And so I've suffered with a lot of shame behind that, guilt, feeling like it was my fault. And it wasn't my fault, not being protected, not being covered, not being cared for. And at some point, fear was also one of the things that was also pervading, which caused a lot of depression and things like that. We'll talk about that later. But as I started to do the work, and as I started to see the situation that happened and experiences that I've been through as something separate from who I am, I started to find the courage to move forward and the willingness to accept myself, right? And as you see, as I'm saying these words, you see that I'm moving up the scale of consciousness. Do you see that the colors are changing and we're heading up into a higher level, reaching enlightenment? You see that? Because base emotions are those at the bottom, they draw in sickness. They draw in a lot of low vibrational things such as poverty, apathy is there. I don't have to say that one. Such as broken relationships, all those kind of hang out in that contracted space at the bottom where you're still full of anger and pride and ego. That's where all that wounding, when it's still very much alive, you feel that. But as you work through it, and I'm going to give you some ideas of some things you can do, you will start to raise your vibration more into reason, more into love, joy, peace, and ultimately enlightenment. Everyone can do this. Everyone can do it. It just takes work, takes some practice. Kind of got to be easy with yourself, right? A little patience help as well. And so you can get there. And we're going to talk about how. The benefits of healing our mother wounds. So before we talk about what, how they show, let's talk about why we should heal them. Why is it so important? The benefits of healing our mother wounds helps us to see our lives, help us to change the way we see our lives. Mother wounds can be like putting on a pair of glasses, sunglasses rather, where it puts a shade, it puts a haze over everything. It's not very clear. It could be opaque, it could be a different color, but it just puts a haze over things. We're looking at our mother wounds, we're able again to separate the wounding from who we are and come into who we've meant to be in this world. It allows us to adjust to the changes of life. It helps with improved mental, spiritual, and emotional health and our physical health. Getting rid of energy that no longer serves us improves our physical health. It adds to our discovery of our purpose and what we've come here to do because we're giving back our mothers their energy of negativity and we're peeling back layers like an onion. And so now we get to discover ourselves. A lot of people start to discover their inner child and they say, wow, I didn't know that my inner child likes to run outside and do cartwheels. I didn't know that my inner child really, really, really likes to eat ice cream. So these are things that you start to discover about yourself as you're healing. More energy, of course, increased joy, peace, and happiness. That's very important. Better intimate relationships. That's probably going to be one of the first things that comes up if you are in a relationship with someone. As you work on yourself, those relationships just improve, and you will really start to enjoy those relationships a lot more or deal with them a lot differently. Either way, you're going to win. Improve creativity and personal success, of course. Better self esteem, that's essential. How we feel and our confidence will supercharge and will improve. And of course, improve the finances because you know that our mother wounds deal with root chakra issues, right? How we feel about ourselves, how we feel safe. And so our finances is a part of that. And so you'll find that as your energy starts to flow, your natural energy starts to flow, guess what? Your finances improve. And that's a wonderful thing. So you don't have to worry about working so hard. Just work on your mother wounds and that wounded mother energy and start to reparent yourself. And you will see things start to improve very quickly. Hmm. So how do I know that I have a mother wound? How do you know? Well, if you're tuned in into this class, you kind of already know. But we're going to get into some specifics because they're going to let us know more in detail how they show up in our lives. These are just some, this is not an exhaustive list. There's some other things. Feeling that something is wrong with you. Like if you just feeling that something innately is broken, out of place with you. You probably always felt that way, feeling different, odd, but that wrongness is the key in this phrase. Never reaching your fullest potential out of fear of failure. So you're kind of feeling like, man, I could move forward and I can do great things, but I'm feeling that if I get there, I'm gonna fail. So I don't even try. I don't put all my energy and my force into something because I feel like at the end or somewhere along the line there's going to be a failure, an embarrassment. So I never reach my fullest potential, right? Another symptom that I see almost 100% in all the client work that I do is having weak boundaries, uncertain sense of self. Boundaries are so important. They're so important. And having weak boundaries, i.e., not being able to say no, right? Not being able to uh just be who you are without having to put on a face or having to do this or to do that. um not enforcing consequences when the boundaries are violated, because that's another thing we have to look at as well. Uncertain self, a sense of self, simply means you're not clear on who you are. You're not clear on what you've come to do. You're not sure if you should go right, you should go left, you should look up, you're just kind of not sure. You vacillate a lot about who you are. You might judge yourself because of it, but not to worry. Remember, I shared with you, it is our mother who teaches us, and it's mother energy that teaches us who we are in this world. She gives us, or that divine feminine energy gives us our sense of self. But if hers is broken and she's your primary caretaker, yours will most likely be broken. But we can do something about it. And this, I'm so excited. So let's move on. Not feeling worthy, not feeling worthy of things that are good, such as decent housing, such as proper clothing, proper foods. And I would ask that you really would think about this, because some things we've normalized in a culture, foods, places, things, and living in certain ways, we've normalized as being cultural. And that doesn't mean that it's innately culture. It could have been imposed at a time. But look around you. Look at the people, places, and things. Do they validate your worth, or do they take away from it? And this takes a lot of introspection, because, again, a lot of things have been culturalized. But look around. Sometimes you feel not worthy, and it's on the surface. You can really feel like, oh man, I'm not going to get this position at my job. I can't get this mate, or I can't get this car, I have this, or, start this business. Those are some of the ones that kind of sit at the surface, but there are some on a deeper level, right? And that's why I asked you to take a look at those. Next is self-sabotage when you get close to a breakthrough. You ever get nervous when something is coming through and you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And you might say something, do something, and it's subconscious. And it just, the whole thing goes to pieces. And inside you want to say, see, I knew that was going to happen. That energy of self-sabotage before you start, you kind of, I already knew, but it's normally at the place when you're about to get that breakthrough. It's normally at that intersection. So self-sabotage is a huge one. Starting something and not being able to finish it because you have a lot of gas when you got started, but when it started to put in the work and do this, do that, you didn't want to do it, or you what they would say, chicken out. Self-sabotage. Trying not to rock the boat. This one is very big. And because I am a female, I could definitely associate with this one. Wanting to do the things that are good, the things that are right, not trying to be that squeaky wheel, not wanting to rock the boat and to get a lot of attention to things that are unjust and humane, silencing our throat chakra. Now, when this happens, and we silence our throat chakra, what happens is we silence our ability to speak life. We silence our ability to speak truth and to have power, because our words, like we talked about earlier, are sources of power. We speak things into existence. So when our throat chakra is constricted, when our throat chakra is dimmed, or whatever the situation may be, that is not allowing it to be at its fullest potential, we will find, as women and men, that there will be some sexual, for women, gynecological issues, men, phallic issues, because those two are actually very intimately related. In fact, a lot of the tissue that the throat and the vocal cords are made of, in terms of this molecular structure, is very similar to that of the vagina and other parts for women, right? And so they have a similar makeup, and they are very, very linked to each other. So not wanting to rock the boat, speak your truth, and do the things that you need to do is a diminishing of your personal power. And so this is definitely a huge symptom that I see quite often. Unconsciously waiting on mother's approval or permission before reclaiming our lives. Excuse me, that should say our lives. Our lives. So if you're waiting to be validated, or for someone to confirm that you should do something, you shouldn't do something, I used to be guilty of this. Just wanting validation that I'm on the right path, and what I'm doing, to be surety, because the mother and that mother energy provides surety, right? So when you're always permissioning and asking and seeking permission for things, then that might be an indication that there is a mother wound there. If you have to call your girlfriend on the phone every time you get an idea just to see if it's a good idea, or if you got to call a friend, or you call your mother just to get validation if I should do it, that's and maybe a mother wounding issue. And this happens on a subconscious level quite often, quite often than you might think. So just be aware of that one. Last but not least, on this screen, we have fear of failure and fear of death. No such thing. Death does not occur. And our mothers teach us this. Our mothers teach us about the cycles of life, the phases of life. Well, she is supposed to. The phases of life. You see, Mother Earth, she has her 4 seasons. She's teaching us about the phases of life. She teaches us about change. Change always encompasses a beginning and an end. Some people say a birth and a death, right? So when we're able to observe the mother in her rightful role, which is how we learn from her, we know that the structure of her is always seasonal. And she teaches us about change if we're able to observe her. So I use the earth, for example, because we see the cycles. There's a rebirth kind of in the spring, summertime, and then you see a so-called death starting to happen in the fall and winter time, but it's never really a death. It's always a cycle. So and it's never a failure or something bad happening. It's always keep moving in the flow of things. So our mother wounds sometimes blocks us from seeing that, causing there to be a fear. And whenever there's a fear, such a fundamental fear such as a fear of death, it causes a lot of havoc in our lives because you are infinite energy. You just change forms just like this earth does. You just keep going and going and going and keep evolving and evolving and evolving. So not to worry about it, just like Mother Earth. The imposter syndrome is another one. This one is really interesting because this is knowing that you have the capability to do something and doing something very well. But when it comes to doing it for yourself, you kind of question like, am I really believing what I'm saying? Am I really as good? Can I do this? It's like a huge fear that comes over you. Excuse me. When it comes to something you really know, when it comes to something you're very passionate about. And so we see that a lot in women who are quote unquote successful, women who are quote unquote in like upper level management. They present themselves very strong or profound at work and very efficient, but really suffer with a lot of self-esteem issues and have to do a lot of work to get to that point. But most people don't see that because we do a good job of hiding it. All right. So, other symptoms include feeling the need to make your mother happy or to console her, to counsel her. This is one that I've seen to be very cultural. I see that in these type of enmeshed relationship where the mother daughter, mother son are so close that the child often feels the need to be their mother's cheerleader, encourager, and that is not necessarily your natural role. Your job is to learn to take in information to get the stuff you need to live your life as a child. But when you take on the responsibility of parenting your mother very young, counseling her and being her cheerleader, quite often it takes away from you. It can also introduce a lot of resentment. Yeah, as you get older, feeling that some of your lifehood and your childhood have been taken away from you, right? Haven't really been able to have the opportunity to be a child, feeling like adult most of the time. That's another symptom of the mother wounds and how they show up. Another one would be taking on too much responsibility, which I mentioned. Having been a mother at 14 myself, that's a lot, right? And again, I became a mother not by choice, but by situation. And I also knew that my mother suffered with a lot of, now as an adult, that's just what I knew, that she suffered with a lot of mental illness. One thing she didn't do, she didn't cook for us. I don't remember her cooking too many times. And when she did prepare something, it was something that was just packaged. It was horrible. She didn't spend a lot of time at all with us. There would be days I wouldn't see my mother, days. And I just normalized it, that caused me to make sure I learned how to cook. That caused me to make sure that talk to the rent lady so the rent ain't paid and the notice in the door. And I go talk to the rent lady because my mom is not home, but I know we can't get kicked out, right? So at 7, 8 years old, I'm trying to negotiate terms and conditions of our lease, and so that we could have that, yeah. And so that has caused a lot of over functioning as an adult for me and for many others as well. And that's definitely a mother wound. And it's also pervasive in our society as we see a lot of modern women and men as well overdo things, overcompensating because we had such poor boundaries with our mothers when we were younger. So don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay. Other symptoms include overdoing, overachieving for approval. Again, that ties right on into taking on too much responsibility and having that enmeshed relationship, that overachieving, that overfunctioning. Oh, yes, that's certainly a symptom. Desiring to fix everything for everyone. I'm guilty. Well, I should say I used to be guilty. I have allowed myself to be released from those false narratives that say I have to fix everyone's problems. Because here's the thing: When we feel that we have to fix things for people, do things for people, number one, we give away excess energy that we don't need to be doing. And this is why we're frustrated, aggravated, and we're not well. Right. But number two, it stops the other person from doing their own spiritual work. Right. It doesn't give them the opportunity to develop, to grow, such as children. If we do everything for them, how are they going to learn to take care of themselves? How are they going to learn to solve problems? How are they going to learn to do it? We're designed to just go and fix everything for them because we feel a need to be needed. That's all it comes down to. A need to be loved, to be appreciated, to be needed. And that's a real need. We all need that. And sometimes it becomes an addiction when we just do it so subconsciously to feel appreciation and love. Meanwhile, we're being drained, drained, drained. I know you know what I'm talking about. Well, keep listening. Okay, another one is overly concerned about what others will think and feel about your life and what you do. You're worried about what your girlfriend going to say if you decided that you're going to change your hair. hmm You worry about what your mother and your grandmother going to say if you stop going to church. You're worried about what your husband's going to say if you decided to grow your hair natural, or what your social group friends decide to do if you decide to downgrade your living to save more money because you want to buy a property and start a farm or move out the country or whatever. You're just overly obsessed, and that concern is influencing you and your decisions because you're so concerned about what others would think about you. You're looking for external approval and validation that your mother should have given you, but for some reason she couldn't and didn't. But this is how it shows up in your life: chronic self doubt, uncertainty, self criticism. Now, we all have times of doubt. We all have it. I have mine. I have them every now and then. They come about. But chronic self doubt is all the time. It's like whenever I go to do something, I'm automatically shooting the idea down. I'm already criticizing or finding so many reasons why this can't be done, or so many barriers, or looking at myself and pointing out the deficiencies and pointing out deficiencies and lack and just criticizing. This is definitely a mother wound. Sometimes when our mothers are not happy with themselves, they see a reflection of you and they see a reflection of them in you. So they criticize and point out things in you that ain't got nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. But we take that on because, again, our mothers are our first teachers as ourselves, right? We learn from her. So we take that on because she's showing us who we are. She doesn't know that she's mirroring it to us, but she is. But we sometimes take on her criticism, her self-doubt and uncertainty as our own. This is why mother wounds show up as things that keep us separate from ourselves. So you have to see that your self-doubt, uncertainty, and self-criticism and everything else we're talking about here is not you. It is not you. It is something that you've experienced, you've internalized. It is something that you've taken on because you've been taught this either energetically or by mouth, that these things are acceptable. And these are the symptoms you are now as an adult expressing to the world, expressing to yourself. But it's only your inner child saying that I want to be healed. It is your inner child crying out for your mother to be mothered. So your physical mother may not be able to come and to comfort you because if she could, she would have done it. But you can reparent yourself. You can mother yourself. And we're going to talk about that because this is just the way we won't have to get over it. Because there's help that's here. The universe has always been here to assist us. And so the universe is telling us now that, hey, help is here and we can do this together. Right? Last but not least, this is a big one. Taking care of others before of yourself. Now, this is especially true. Again, I'm a mother, and many of you are, or you parent something, even if you're a man, doesn't matter. You parent something. When you are able to place the needs of others in front of you and is normalized, that's wounding. You have to always remember that you are number one. You are number one. You are number one. Your job here on earth is to work on your soul. Your job is not to overextend yourself, not to be irritated and bothered and frustrated and sick and leaking personal power. That's not what you've come here to do. And so when you find yourself taking care of other people before yourself and your needs, when you're finding yourself again with weak boundaries, you know that there is a mother wound. there, because our mothers teach us how to care for ourselves. Mother energy teaches us how to care for our soul. And when we're missing some component of that, a lot of times it shows up as us taking care of other people, places, and things, and being preoccupied with everything outside of ourselves. Because in some ways, that allows us to be numb for a while. That takes the attention off the pain that we're feeling in this moment. And doing something from others, we kind of get a feeling of feeling good, but it's a very superficial one. We get a feeling of happiness and joy in doing for others, but it never really fully satisfies us, because you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. And if the person doesn't respond the way you want them to respond in grace, love, and appreciation, then we're upset, right? But what is really saying that you need to love yourself. You need to parent yourself. You need to get to yourself first. Give yourself appreciation. Give yourself love, because you can't disappoint you. You can't disappoint you. So caring for yourself, sort of doing the opposite, right, is the way to help us to get out of it. So you can look at this list and say, hey, I'm just going to do the complete opposite. Everything that's listed on these last two screens, I'm going to do the complete opposite. I'm going to work on the complete opposite of that. And that's even a great place to start. But I'm going to give you some things that you can do. Really quickly, surface implication of mother wounds: poor sexual health, poor mental health, physical health, digestion, organ malfunction, any organs not working right. You have to look at childhood wounding, any organ, doesn't matter, even the blood. Troubled relationships with spouse, significant others, and children. Deeply troubled relationships, separations, tensions, violence, abuse, all those things. Issues in career, not being satisfied, not feeling you're being justly compensated for your gifts, talents that you bring to the table, feeling that you're not heard. Again, we talked about the throat chakra and how that is so important to our personal power and to our health a little bit earlier. So this is very, very important. When we see issues in these realms, health, relationships, career, these are all sort of root lower chakra issues. We know that somewhere there is wounded wounded mother energy somewhere along the line. And this is an indication that we should look inside ourselves to see what's really causing the issue. Now, the Kromanti, which are our wise elders, have led the way and have shown us through their examples, through their tenets and teaching, what we can do to help ourselves, how we can work through our mother wounds, our childhood trauma. So we're going to talk about 7 things that we can do, 7 practices or 7 awarenesses that can help you along this journey. First things first is awareness. I've said that word so many times throughout this presentation because we cannot heal what is not revealed. We cannot heal what is not revealed. So we need to be aware of what is bothering us. We need to be aware of what is ailing us. So we have to know when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you feel that you're giving your personal power away, we have to be able to sit back in those moments. Can't keep going, going, going. Sit back in those moments and figure out, when was the first time I felt this way? Why do I feel this way? What makes me feel this way? And if you were able to sit with those questions regarding that situation for a little while, you will be able to go back to a time and place in your childhood that someone told you you were not beautiful. Someone told you you were dumb and stupid. Someone said that maybe a sexual abuse situation occurred, and you shared the situation and you weren't heard. This is why today you are in relationships and situations where you don't feel heard, where you don't feel supported, right? Because you hold on to the energy that says, I am not heard, I cannot be heard. So it becomes important that when we feel these, that we are aware of them and where they come from, because then we could take some more steps to take our healing a step further, to start to love where we are and start to gently do the process of releasing these thoughts, right? But the awareness is everything. We got to see what it is that is ailing us. We have to see the energy that is bothering us and speak it. One of the things I teach in the longer session of this course is that you have to be able to tell your story. Lower chakra wounds, again, the lower chakras have to be witnessed. So sexual assault, sexual trauma, things dealing with issues in the family of abuse, bad maltreatment, all these things, they have to be witnessed by a compassionate witness. They have to be someone who said, you know what, sweetheart, I see what you're saying. I understand. And I love you. I don't judge you. May I hug you? You know, is there something I can do for you? It has to be witnessed. This is why spiritual workers such as myself become important, because we provide a safe place for those who need to lay their burdens down, and we work through that together. So, of course, tell your story. We just talked about that one. Yes. I wanted to say something else about this part, because in telling your story, we are opening and exercising and stretching. Guess what? That throat chakra. Remember, we talked about the throat and the power that it has. Telling your story, although a lot of people don't want to do it, and when you hear people tell their story, sometimes you can hear their voice shake a little bit. Sometimes you hear the voice go down. These are some of the indications that there may still be some wounding there that requires attention. And it's a beautiful thing because we want to see it. Remember, number one is awareness. This helps the practitioner, myself, and of course the person who's going through the healing session, to see areas of their lives where it's still kind of tender, areas of their lives that still wants their attention. So telling your story allows you to energetically and without really consciously identify parts of your narrative that are still kind of sensitive to you, although you don't talk about them often. This is why you must tell your story. I recommend doing a voice recording, and but prior to, maybe writing out your story. You can draw it out, you can color it out, however you want to put it, but you want to put your elements of your life outside of your mind, outside of your consciousness, on something else. So it could be paper, it could be your phone to record. And as you do it, and as you start to tell your story, I want you to pay attention to how you feel as you're telling a component of your story. And that helps us to start in places where you're hurting the most to get you the best results, because we're going to bring it into awareness. So that's an exercise you can do. It's also an exercise you can do in our course as well, if you decide to take the extended version of this course. Number 3, self-forgiveness. This is very, very, very important. I've learned how important self-forgiveness is, because self-forgiveness allows you to free yourself. Because truly, everything that we see and we experience in our lives are a reflection of our ability that we're holding on to something, or we're not holding on to something. Period. And I know the stories of our childhood and our life has been what they are, but to the extent to which we're able to release ideas, concepts, old beliefs of ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I can never have. To the extent to which we're able to release those things is to the extent that we can actually have self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is not holding yourself harmless for things that have happened to you, not feeling, choosing not to feel bad. And I say choosing because it is a choice. That's like you chose to take this class. As simple as it is for you to take this class and to choose this class, it really is as simple to say to yourself, I forgive me. And every moment of the day when you feel heaviness trying to come up on you, or you feel heaviness in your energy, just take a moment to breathe, as we did in the beginning of this session, and release yourself. I release myself from things that no longer serve me. I forgive myself. I give myself a gift of love, of compassion. This is self-forgiveness. These are the beginning steps that Kromanti elders want us to know. I'm starting to reparent and remother ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves before we get to talking about forgiving our mother, forgiving what's going on in society and everything. We have to forgive ourselves for what we did not know. We have to forgive and allow ourselves to be for trying our best and doing our best with what we had. No one's given us a blueprint on how to do this thing. This is just we're out here with ourselves and our spirit connecting to heal ourselves. We have to give ourselves grace and gift of compassion. So forgiveness is like taking your left fist. All right. So take your fist and make a ball with it. Forgiveness is opening up that fist wide open, right? And so when you open up your hand, a couple of things happen. First, you're able to release and let go or whatever that's in your hand, whatever it is, you're able to, because now you're aware of it because you opened it, right? But you're also able to receive, right? The heart is a great receptacle for receiving. It is on the left side of our body. It deals with our feminine energy, right? It deals with love. It deals with compassion, right? So when our heart is open, it can receive those things, and it also can release the things that no longer serves it, such as bitterness, unforgiveness, which is the opposite of self-forgiveness, condemnation, criticism, right? Low vibrational energy. No. So you just make a decision in yourself that each and every moment, I'm just going to be in forgiveness. And when I feel an unforgiving and an unloving thought pop up in my mind, I'm going to say, I'm going to forgive that. I'm going to have compassion towards that thought. I'm going to see myself with love and see myself with goodness. I'm going to forgive myself. So we kind of need to look at self-forgiveness in a different with a different definition. Some spiritual backgrounds thinks forgiveness is forgetting things or saying or throwing it away and pretending it never happened. No, no, no. That's not forgiveness at all. Forgiveness is a gift to you. It is to give to you to help you to be free. Don't forget that. That's very important. Number four. Number four. Number four, we talk about setting boundaries. Setting boundaries are essential. The fact that our wounding is so pervasive in our lives is because we've had no boundaries. We have not been taught to have boundaries. We haven't seen our mothers with boundaries, people in our lives. Society says that you shouldn't have boundaries. You should let anything and everything happen without you saying no, without checking in with your highest self. It's just whatever come in, just let it do what it's going to do and don't say anything. Well, divine beings of love, you haven't come here to live that way. You haven't come here to be the doormat of others. You haven't come here to be the scum bucket of the earth. No, your boundaries are for your protection. Your boundaries are for your protection. Saying no is for your protection. I cannot do this right now. I choose not to do this right now. One thing I like to do when I'm asked to do a project, because I love to do a lot of different things, which is part of my mother wounding. I've realized it, me personally, because overfunctioning is not a good thing for my body. One of the things you can say to yourself is, or to the person who's asking for something, all right, thank you, Jane. Can you give me a few days to think about that? I'll get back with you. Try not to make any decision. I don't care what it is in the moment. Give yourself time. Children of abusive parents, one thing we have not had is time to think and to hear our own voices, right? This is the challenge that we're faced with now. Setting boundaries by saying, no, Jane, I actually, I appreciate your invitations, but give me a couple days to think about it and I'll get back with you. That is a great way of giving you some space, giving you some time so you don't have the knee-jerk reaction to want to go and do something, go and help, immediate. No, it giving you time to touch in with yourself, to check in with your energy reserves. Do I really have enough energy to do this? Can I really honestly say I want to do this? It gives you an opportunity and it also honors the relationship and the communication with the other person. So it's important to set boundaries. People have to know that there are certain things they cannot say, do around you. And when they do violate your boundaries, after you've made them known, there has to be some type of consequence. I'm not saying you have to do anything violent. I'm not promoting violence. But I am saying if you call me after 9 o'clock and I've asked you not to call me after a certain time, you call me, I will not answer. That's a consequence. When normally you might pick up the phone, check things out. Oh, it could be this, it could be that. I'm not answering the phone. Another thing, if you don't clean your room with your children, if you're not cleaning your room, there's no football practice for a week. And mean it. So when they come in and the things are not done, you don't have to say anything. When football practice time comes and you and they're ready to go, you're sitting down chilling and relaxing, they're looking what's going on. No, you didn't clean your room. I told you these are the consequences. And when people start to see that you're serious about your self-care and your boundaries, they will back off. They will stop bothering you. They will know, okay, we cannot leech onto this. We can go to somebody else, but we know we can't do this here. This helps to preserve your energy. This helps with your self-respect. This helps with your self-love. You're going to start to find out when you put energy boundaries around you in every way, finance, business, otherwise you're going to start to see that, okay, all right, you're going to start, you see your energy coming back. You're going to feel your strength filling your body. You're going to see that your business and your ideas are going to start to grow and thrive, because what you're doing, you're cutting off the leeches in your life, the energetic leeches. For example, me, I do not talk to my mother. She cannot call my phone. She's on my block list. Energetically, I have to make a boundary for my own well-being. Yes, she's my mother. Yes, culturally is not the thing to do. I would be considered like a wayward child, I guess, right? Because that's a cultural mother wants to still stay in an abusive relationship, no matter who it's from, right? So yeah, so these are some of my boundaries that helps me to be well, and they can change. And when they do change, I'll communicate that. But until then, this is the boundary. You owe your parents nothing. You owe your mother nothing. You owe your mother nothing. You don't owe anybody anything, but you do owe it to yourself. And you do owe it to yourself to protect your energy, right? And keep it sacred. Next is to create rituals. Rituals are so important. Rituals just basically something that you do every day, often, that brings life to you. So, for example, when you start in the beginning of the day, are you praying, meditating? Do you go out and exercise? Do you do a little stretching, yoga? Creating rituals helps to heal parts of yourself that maybe you're not conscious of. Creating rituals helps to silence your inner person so you can hear what you need. Creating rituals, often, depending on the rituals you do, can allow and accelerate the work that you do, such as candle magic. So you can use candle magic, you can do tea ceremonies, meditations. There's so many things that you can do that honors your energy. It has to honor your energy. It has to honor your energy. It has to honor your energy. That can bring you into a greater sense of self and bring you back into your center. So create rituals that honor you, that are fun. Rituals that are not fun are kind of boring and mundane. You're not likely to stick with it, and it's not going to give you as much result as something that you really enjoy doing for yourself. So create rituals. We create rituals using fire all the time. Candle magic, pray over your candle. You can dress it with herbs that really minister love, grace to you, and set an intention. That's a perfect ritual, and I use candle magic on a daily basis for my mother wound healing. Six, we have prayer. I say prayer because much people don't talk about it, but it's just communication with the divine inside of you. It's just communicating and sharing your heart's desires, your issues. You can pray to your ancestors. You can talk to them and tell them what's going on. Always call on your most highest and evolved ancestors. You just don't want any ancestors, honey, because you have them ancestors who ain't too good, who ain't been doing the evolution work to evolve their souls. And they can come down and put other things on your work and make your job harder. So always call on your most highest and evolved ancestors, those who have done the work and are doing the work, and those who I want to assist you. So I pray often. I pray in singing, through singing. I pray when I'm writing, when I'm showering. I love to pray during the shower. That water, again, using that water element to help us to get be flexible with ourselves, to help us to move with grace and ease. Water is extremely mothering. So I tell people you must drink a lot of water while you're doing this work. You must surround yourself with watery things, things that move, because that which is rigid can't bend. And life is about change. Remember, we talked about the cycles, right? Life is about change and changing cycles and things like that. So if we're so rigid and we're so hard in how we move throughout life, and we don't have the water element helping us to be flexible, our healing becomes and our life becomes hard. So while you're doing your prayer work, drink your water. You may need to move a little slower. But as you're doing your prayer work, here's the thing. Just don't pray and get up and go wash dishes and get on Facebook and things like that. As you pray, after you pray, you sit with yourself for a couple minutes. See what downloads come to you. Because Spirit wants to minister love and grace and peace to you from your inner soul, from your oversoul. But you got to sit with it. You get in prayer and you got to sit with yourself. You got to sit with the love that's there for you to be filled. Because your prayer, you're coming, things are coming out, you're releasing, but you also want to be filled. So allow yourself to be filled. Don't rush the process. And know you can pray anytime, anywhere. People don't have to hear you. You ain't got to go to the closet. You ain't got to kneel down if you don't want to. You can just pray as you're washing dishes. Make it a part of your life as as a conscious communication, and it will serve you very, very, very well. Number seven, this is a big one. This is a huge one. Is detoxing your life. We must detox our lives. We got to get rid of the people, places, and things that caused our problems in the first place. We may have to rethink about how we look at certain relationships, including the one with our mother. Again, those boundaries become important. You may not be able to detox her out. You may not want to detox her out, but you may need to have some conversations. You may need to maybe limit your interaction depending on the nature of the wounding you have with your physical mother. You may need to come out of circles and places and things that remind you or kind of keep up that wounded energy. For example, a church. If it's a home church and everybody knows your mother and knows you, you might need to go to another church. You might need to find another community to live in if it's so enmeshed like that, and if it's going to be a barrier to you. So anything that's a barrier, like poop in your butt, in your bottom, when it needs to come out and it's a barrier because it's hard. Most likely, if you drink a lot of water, it'll come out. Again, water is very important. But if there's a barrier there, things don't come out and it builds up, and you don't feel good. So this spiritual detox, the emotional detox is important, of letting go of the things that no longer serve you. You may cut off the internet for a while. May need to do a little exercise and getting outside. You may need to just not really interact with people for a couple weeks and be with yourself. You may need to take a retreat, take on a vacation, whatever. You need to get the noise and the clutter that's causing a problem out your life. And maybe some of you may be the partner that you're with right now, because in your wounded space, you attracted that partner into your life. Now that you're healing, now that you are changing, and that partner may not be on the same level where you are, you may have to make some decisions regarding how you reshape that relationship. Doesn't mean you need to get divorced. I'm not saying that. So don't go out and divorce your spouse because you're trying to detox your life, unless your spirit's telling you to do that. But it may need you may need to just change things around or have some conversations around what you need, around what your soul needs at this time, and how they can be supportive towards you or with you, actually. So you got to get the people, places, and things out your life. You need to look at the foods you are consuming. Some of us crave junky foods because we're really craving sweetness and fun in our lives. So, junk food is full of sugar and junk, right? And things that are they stimulate us. They stimulate us a little bit. So the craving of that is actually just craving of fun and sweetness in your life. So you need to find ways to pull in sweetness energetically so that you can help to stop eating the things that you really don't want to eat in your reach for something of higher love. Does that make any sense? So detoxing your life includes detoxing your body. Going on a fast doesn't mean you just have to fast on water. You can fast with fruits and vegetables. You can fast off of the internet. You can fast off of social media. Something that's going to allow there to be a release, and whatever's taking a space that shouldn't be there, you want it to go. Just like when you're constipated, there's poop in your bottom that needs to go. When that poop moves, then the flow of life can continue. The goodness of life can continue to flow through you, and you can feel better. So you have to detox your environment, things that you have, junky things. If you have junk underneath your bed in your closet, start throwing that stuff away. These are all spiritual principles. Get rid of things that no longer serve you. The universe is abundant, and they will supply in abundance more of what you need and in a better version of it. So when you're able to release by detoxing, you can, like that hand that's open, that release. Now you can start to receive things to take you on the next leg of this journey. Don't be afraid to detox. Let that shit go. Number 8, which is a bonus. Connect to the divine Muma. In Kromanti tradition, Muma means just mother. It means mama. It means the divine feminine energy which runs in all of us, even if you are male. Connect to it. That which is easy, that which is loving, that which cares so much for you on the inside and the outside, that which wants to embrace you, to hold you, to kiss you, to nourish you. Nourish yourself, reparent yourself, take care of yourself the way you wish your mother could have taken care of you. Take care of yourself in the way you wish your mother could have taken care of you. So, for example, for me, I wish my mother cooked good meals. I wish she spent more time with me. I wish I was able to see her more often. I wish she said kind words to me. I wish she would hug me because she didn't do those things. So now I do those for myself. I find ways to nourish myself through teas and sea moss and taking my herbs and eating my vegetables. I like to cook my food, my own food. That's a big thing for me. My mom didn't cook, as I mentioned. So I'm like, oh, I like to eat. I like my nourishment. So that's how I like to connect to the divine movement. I do it through my tea ceremonies and rituals, my bloodline cleansing. I go out, I have a garden, so I go outside and touch the earth often. I talk to my plants. There's so many ways you can connect to the divine movement inside of you and around you. Just breathing air, just stretching, staying connected, staying aware of who you are and how you feel, because our mother energy is very emotional. And so being aware of how we feel give indication of what might be paining, and then we can send love to that area. We can send healing to that. So we can do all these things, but connecting to that energy as often as we can and disconnecting, as we said before, detoxing is a great way to get started. These are great things you can do. And in the class, we go in a lot more detail than this. This is just a 1 hour touch base. So you can kind of get an idea of what you can do to heal yourself, some understanding of what this phenomena is. Why do you feel the way that you feel? Why are you experiencing the same thing? What are these generational things that I see that you want to break in your life that you've seen? On that note, we do have a bloodline cleansing ritual that you can find on our website, soultribeacademy.org. That's soultribeacademy.org. It's a bloodline cleansing ritual. It can help to cleanse out the negative energy on your maternal and paternal side so you can get the heaviness off of you and start to live life the way you're intended to live life. Now, I give instructions in a video and a demonstration, and you also have a workbook to keep up with your healing work. I recommend doing it every 3 months. Every 3 months, like you change your oil. When you change your oil, you do your bloodline ritual. You change your oil again, you do your bloodline ritual. Do this, and it will help you so much. It would help you, I promise you. So that is on um our website. But if you have any questions, please, please, please send us a message, email us. I'm going to also send you a link to our survey where you can just pop your answers to the response. Let us know how we're doing, what we could do to make this a more thorough and helpful experience for you. Because that is our intention, is to be conduits of information from the ancestors, from the Kromanti elders and ancestors, to help you along your journey, because help is here. Help is here. I want to thank you so much for your time, for your attention to yourself, and for this presentation. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us again, soultribegroup.com for products, CMOS and herbs, but also at this site where you're taking this course, you can go over to soultribeacademy.org and contact us there as well. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in other presentations, and I wish you a fantastic, fantastic life and healing work. And I will see you very, very, very soon.